In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint a metal garage door. Here's a couple things you might need to do the job. They have these on Viver's website, link in the description. They're $150 roughly. It's a airless spray rig, and they work pretty good for the price. You can't really beat it. Another thing you will need is some sort of Scotch-Brite. You might want to have something like this. You could even use one of your dish ones. It probably would do just fine. Sometimes I'll use a scrub brush or a pressure washer to clean the door. For the procedure, I always use water-based paint. I will not use oil-based. If somebody tells you you need to use oil-based on a garage door, they really don't know what they're doing, so I would not hire them. These garage doors, if they're factory painted, were done with a product called DTM. It's a water-based paint that they put on in the factory. It's kind of very thin, but what adheres best to the water base is another coat of water base. But sometimes you don't know if somebody else has already painted this. So what you want to do, or if sometimes it was repainted before it got to your house, even if it was a new door, I've seen this before, even then, is after you're done washing it, you want to take your hand and wipe it on the door like this. And if your hand is white, that means that somebody used a oil-based product on it. So if that's the case, then you need to follow this set of rules here. And I'll talk about the other way, that if it doesn't do that, then you don't have to worry about doing this procedure. So what I'll do then is I'll wash the door down really good, and I'll use that Scotch-Brite, and I'll clean off all that oxidation off the door. It's kind of a pain to do. A lot of times I'll use that scrub brush, some dish soap. Dish soap is nice because it actually doesn't leave residue. I wouldn't use any other types of soap. Dish soap works great for that. And you want to clean it to where, if there's not much left on there, it's okay, but you want to get as much of that oxidation off as possible. Then the thing we'll do next is I take these here and lift them out, and we'll shove smaller pieces of paper up under the windows. I know this one's dirty, it needs to be washed, but I'm just using it as an example. So you shove paper underneath all around the windows. These are magnetic on my garage door. They're just magnets. You can buy them on Amazon if you're wondering. Same with these, they just come right off, magnets. So I'll clean off, take off, mask off all the things that I need to mask off. Usually we'll mask off the base rubber, and then I'll take drops and put them underneath the door, drop cloths, or you can use cardboard if you want to do that. Now if you have the chalking on your door, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use a water-based primer, preferably one that is an alkyd emulsion primer. If you call your local Vista Paint, they have a great one called Primezol. Dunn Edwards and Sherwin-Williams also sell them. You have to ask them about what is a good alkyd emulsion primer, and that's what you want to use as a primer. Now, if you don't have, so you would have to go ahead and prime it and then paint it. Okay, prime it, let it dry, and then paint it. Now, if you don't have any chalking issue, so you go ahead and you wipe it, there's no white on your hands because it's a white door or brown or whatever color it is. So none of that gets on your hands. Now you don't have an oil base on your door, so all you need to do is actually use a water-based paint right over it. Now typically you shouldn't need to do really much sanding on it, and to determine if you need to sand it at all, you shouldn't need to, but if you want to be safe, you can always use that Scotch-Brite and clean it with that. But what you do is you take a sample of the paint you're using, especially if you're using, like, you can use the Behr or whatever from Home Depot, because it also is self-priming. You can take a sample of that paint, put it on the door, and let it dry overnight. Then the next day, if it is water-based and it is doesn't need any prep, you'll be able to just take like your fingernail, and you shouldn't be able to remove that. In fact, this door has been painted, and if you can see, I cannot remove the paint off of that door, because the water base will stick to itself so good that it will not remove itself from itself. It's really on there good. Now if you use that alkyd emulsion primer over the oil base, it sticks to oil base, but also the water base sticks to it very well. So then you've converted it back to water base, because the last person, obviously, like I said, they probably didn't know what they were doing. They painted it with oil base. This is common with painters. A lot of them, for some reason, think it's metal. It has to be painted with oil base. But that's not the case. They were never painted with oil base from the factory. They were always painted with a water base DTM, basically a paint that you put right over the metal. The metal has a electrolysis done to it called electrogalvanized, so it typically won't rust. So if you're having rusting issues, you might have to follow some of the rust videos that I have out on how to treat rust and stuff like that. And usually if it's really badly rusted, I would just replace the door. The reason we like to use the water base for this procedure is because it sticks very well. These items here are plastic. It sticks very well to those as well, so you don't have to worry about paint peeling off of those. Sometimes the oil base won't stick as well to this. That's why I don't use it. It does not last as long. The oil base in the last 10 years has depleted. A lot of the things they used to use back in the 70s are, in the last 30 years ago or so, are gone out of the oil base. And those are the things that made oil base really superior to water base. Now it's actually the opposite. Water base is much more superior to oil base, and because the formulations, if you get the highest grade, like Home Depot paint is not necessarily the best. I don't know if I'll have this set up, but if you can check in the description and you wanted to try Vista paint, there might be a link in there with an account number that you could use to go in the paint store. I'm going to be setting that up very soon. So be sure to like the video, be sure to subscribe. Real quick, I'm going to go ahead and show, I think I've got a demo here that I can put in this video and show you us actually doing some of the painting on one garage door, maybe some of the prep, and you can see how we do it. Typically, if you have your pressure set right, I have a lot of airless painting videos. If you have your pressure set right, you shouldn't need to cover up more than 3 or 4 feet from your garage door. I don't actually need to cover more than about 12 inches, but as your amateur, you probably should cover out 3 or 4 feet, because you're definitely not going to be as neat as I am with airless. So anyway, let's hope that helps you. Check that demo, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Don't forget to like the video, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that already. Alright, if you can see the spray rig I've got sitting there, that looks similar to the one that's that Weaver has, but it's not the same. This is a professional unit. This is a 0.5 gallons per minute. The other one's a 0.3. Big difference. This one's a professional unit where, it's a lot more expensive. You don't need this though for your homeowner work. If you can see there, the can I'm using is Vista's Carefree. That is the best adhesion out of any water-based paint on the market. Again, if you check your sample when you put it on there, with this stuff I know for sure it'll stick 100%, but depending on where you got your paint at, maybe you're in the Midwest or something else, have different material there and you're not sure, just put a sample on the door. That's what I always tell people. Look, if you're not sure how much prep to do, put a sample on, come back the next day, check it, try and scrape it off. Even use a putty knife or something like that and really give it a go. And if you think it's going to stay on there pretty good, then it's probably going to be fine. So anyway, we'll get started here in a second. I'm actually going to do an airless demo. If you notice, there's some bushes very close to where I'm working. I didn't get any paint on those bushes, by the way. There's no wind right then, and it was a really pretty hot day. If it was a really moist day, I probably would have just covered that up real quick with a drop and been done with it. But I know what I'm doing, so I didn't really need to worry about that, because the trick is spraying straight at the wall. Now I'm checking the door to make sure that it has no chalking, no dust. I think I didn't do the prep. If you see the windows, That's all just paper by itself with no tape and just shoved up underneath the glass, and then a few pieces of tape where it was kind of like wanting to lift up or something like that. So that's all you do is take a putty knife, shove the paper underneath the thing there. It's actually very easy to do using that. We just tear small pieces off of a 12-inch roll, or you can get a 6-inch roll and use that if you want, of masking paper, and shove it underneath the glass. Now, if you notice, I'm using a technique where I'm spraying up and down because I'm doing something called cross spraying. The bottom edge, I'm actually going both directions because the edge of your bottom edge of your fan does not cover completely. So a lot of times you'll find after you're done spraying a garage door, you'll see the first 6 inches of it not covered. And a couple reasons of that is some people angle downward when they're spraying. If you notice, I'm spraying very much straight at the wall, except when I get to the corner, I'm angling towards the molding, and I'm doing that on purpose to make sure that I get a little bit of coverage out of that. At the very end, I actually go around the whole outer edge of the door and spray that little piece of molding there. But if you notice how quick this goes, I'm using a 515 spray tip. The one that comes with the Weaver spray rig is a 517. It's a little bit large to do the enamel on the garage door, so if you're not careful and you have no experience, you're probably going to get some runs. So you might want to drop by the local Harbor Freight and get a smaller spray tip. They sell them there. I'm not sure if they are compatible with the actual spray head that they give you, but it might be, or you can buy the spray head there. They're very inexpensive compared to other places at Harbor Freight. I can also put links in here of places that also sell those spray tips if you don't have a Harbor Freight locally. But yeah, you can see this really only takes a couple minutes, and this will last way longer than the factory finish. The factory finish that comes on those doors is actually, I think I had a 517 in there. I think I had a larger tip because I'm just seeing why I was so careful around the corners, or probably my other tip didn't have it with me, so I just use a 517. That's usually the most common tip is a 517. People use them for almost everything. But enamel, you really should have a smaller one. If you're brand new spraying, but we get a 413, that would probably be more adequate for a homeowner that's never sprayed before. 413 is going to give you a little slower spray. You're not going to be moving so fast, and you can be in a little more control. If it's really hot out, you might end up with a dry spot, but I doubt it. I think it'd be okay. A 413, but just keep going, don't stop. This was so hot this day, I think it didn't really matter. You go around all the edges of the door. In this part of the video, I actually show that there's no overspray on the bushes. It's really hard to tell with that thing. People were commenting on this video a while back. I made this several years back, and they were commenting that there was overspray on those bushes. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing. No dust, no overspray, nothing. Nothing that's visible to anyone on this earth. So anyway, I love it when people say that stuff because they have no clue. But anyway, I hope this video helps you. Maybe you'll be able to do your own garage door. I mean, it is getting expensive. I think at this point, I'm charging upwards of near $500 just to paint a garage door. And it's just, it's kind of crazy, but that's just what it is. Now, when they raise the labor prices in California, when they raise minimum wage, basically that affects everyone. It makes everybody's prices go up. So yeah, it does nothing really for the poor except make minimum wage higher. And I'm showing there the bushes. There's absolutely nothing on them, not even dust, nothing. Very, very clean. Anyway. I get lots of people that think there was, but it's all about control. It's about the tip size, everything else.